Hello. This is the quick Tantra Apologia. Just my shortest form of describing, what's scary about us, but why we can perhaps be tolerated in the culture these days, a bit. And basically on what basis? So the essential divide that this refers to really is the divide between a spiritual path that is bound by, held in a community, religious community, monastery, that kind of thing. We call such things the monastic path. Now the methods, the ways of learning on the monastic path, many of them are useful to anyone and everyone who cares to explore them a bit. But a lot of them rely on the group energy of the group moving together, using that energy of the group to accelerate the individuals in it. And in a monastic setting, ideally, that pace is faster. The lessons are more thorough because they're learned kind of en group, together, that each individual is kind of benefiting from the energy of the group traveling together. There are difficulties with that method, like break up the group and you more or less have to start again, things like that. But Tantrikas and those who learn in the Tantric mode, they tend to be more, intent, fast, purposeful, berserk, depends on your perspective, than those that are suited to a monastic kind of commitment. So the Tantrikas learn from not just a monastic kind of lesson set, but also the full-on of the worldly, and all their life, all the activities they engage in, be it the dynamics of the corporate environment to the intricacies of their sex lives, are part of their learning and movement in life. And this focus on pace and speed and individuation, the individual progress, that's very major in Tantra. Now, among the things that accelerate the spirit, challenge the nervous system, open it and increase its capacity to accept stronger and stronger sensations and experiences, to be more functional, because really meditation in essence is really about getting absolutely functional with your nervous system, that it's no longer constrained even to what can be regarded as the normal limits, and it becomes expansive, becomes your meditation. Now, like it or not, sexual techniques and completing the maturation journey of sexuality, which very few do this, in the world these days, very few indeed. Those are essential characteristics for a Tantrika, to use the sexual energies, but also to be mature enough in them that they're really there, and they're not a kind of an unconscious or bothersome or exciting or fearful or thing as they are for most people. This means we engage with sex on a level a little bit like, very analogous to actually, the way a martial artist engages with violence. And that brings me to my apologia, really. Violence is nasty. It's disturbing. I mean, it can be great and protective, like everything. Full advaita, it has its upsides, its downsides, all of it. And in the culture, we have a general attitude of violence is one of those things. We want some control on it. We want it not just generally all over the place, some kind of control, some kind of limitation on it. And in the culture, we also have laws and rules and ways with sexuality, the same thing. You can't just sort of run around with your dick and go to a high school and say, come who wants to play, or whatever. No. We have restraints. But then martial artists don't generally run around the world just trying to beat people up. You get some people who want to run around the world to beat people up, who might occasionally pitch up for a martial arts class, but they're generally not going to suit the environment. People are going to get their vibe. Occasionally such people, maybe they get encouraged there because they have awesome physical attributes, something like that, some great capacity, maybe for a while, but it's not going to really be their thing. And they're not really martial artists. I hate to use the word thug because it comes from a long and particular place in Tantra, but in the common usage of the word, yeah, they're just thugs, morons with fists. And around the Tantra world and some of the outer teachings and some of the sort of what you can call beginner schools or really publicly accessible schools, the kind of schools that'll tell you, oh, this is good for everyone kind of lies. That's a bit like martial artists or the kind of teenage attracting martial artists with their sort of advertisements going, oh, I'll teach you the ultimate secret of this and that and the other. And a bit like martial arts, the most beginner, introductory, outer, kind of almost unrelated to the core kind of lessons or practices of a thing are the loudest, most high-claiming, etc., etc., in martial arts. With my chi, I will blast you back and knock my students over or something like that, and I'll teach you how to do it by email. The highest of the highest has to be on offer to attract the idiots because they all want the best. And they've got a very simple idea of what's the best. But get really into martial arts. And for some it's a meditation. For some it's a route to self-perfection, self-improvement, but also submitting to something that is arising of one's own experience. And in a martial arts school, that's where the violence happens. That's where the violence is contained. Students may get together and spar at home. It's not about the physical space of the dojo. It's about the containment of, we are learning these things, we are learning these ways of violence. They're not generally okay or much regarded in the culture. So we practice it. And why do we practice it? We practice to give ourselves options when a situation of real violence arises, that hopefully our skill enables us, on the one hand, to ensure the survival of the higher life forms in the scenario, but more to be able to be gentler than having to cope with physical threat with no skills, because then we haven't got much choice but to pull out a cowardly weapon like a gun or sneak up behind the guy and do him on the head with a half brick. Martial arts enables a greater range. The awareness of violence enables one to bypass that violence, perhaps, if it seems suitable. Not even get into the combat. As one great master put it, my most fine weapon, my greatest weapon, is my smile. And Tantric is much the same. We don't want to bother the culture. We, like martial artists, if we're, a bit aware with it, martial artists know their ways are not for everyone. Their ways are for the few who feel the urge to work on themselves in that particular way. Likewise, Tantric is. Take an advanced class in some aspect of martial arts, let's say breaking tiles, boards, concrete, whatever, with the hands. and then take a regular person and say, here's karate. Come, slam these boards with your fists as hard as you can. It's not going to go well. And likewise with Tantra. Invite someone to a circle of tantrikas working on something, and they might need, new friends with white coats and fancy drugs for years and years afterwards. My point is the two are dangerous in their own ways. And just as a school of martial arts manages to generally practice its art, teach its students, advance, while doing all sorts of stuff that's technically illegal in the culture. It is illegal to just hit someone. It's even illegal to give permission for someone to hit you in most cultures. It's nonetheless a crime. It doesn't matter if you want to lay charges about it or not, like some countries have laws like that. But, so a good martial arts school keeps itself a bit to itself. It kicks out or resists students that look like they just want to go and bar fight, and so on. And tantrikas have a similar relationship with their sex and their sexuality to the world. They know how disturbing it can be, and martial artists know how damaging their stuff can be, and they damage those who are in the class, trained to take that damage, etc. And so between us Tantra people, sure, we do things that should make your hair stand on end. Just as martial artists should do things that, your body would not want to face. I've seen friends come out of gradings with more than the bruising required to kill after a car crash. More than a lethal amount of bruising for a regular person. And they survive it, a couple of, difficult nights, a bit sore, but they're fine. And tantrikas likewise. So just as martial arts sometimes, look at the history of capoeira, the culture gets all antsy about it, the culture is very about slave driving, and they don't like the idea of slaves learning ways of battle, and so the slaves disguised it as dance and pretended they were doing dance. And for a few centuries and around the Western world a lot of us tantrikas have been pretending we do yoga, and pretending we do dance, and pretending we do relationship therapy, and pretending we do cures for sexual dysfunction, and so on and so on. And for quite a few of us, that's our outer door. Yes, from our skill set, from what we learn, we can help others. Just as a martial artist, from his skill set in some scenarios, he may be able to occasionally help others. Even make a living at it, in the case of a martial artist, perhaps becoming a bodyguard. In the case of a tantrika, perhaps coaching some corporate executive through his unfortunate eroticism to the other side of it, so that it's not a big risk to the corporate world anymore if he's not going to go get in a big scandal with, doing obscene things with elves or whatever he's into. We have our areas where we touch the culture. In our own core practice, tantrikas between tantrikas, it's like the core of a large school in martial arts of the masters with the masters. And then it's only the business of the masters. Those who are there in that kind of scenario, nothing to do with the culture at all. Sure, it could look scary or exciting or whatever. But there's curiosity about, and who knows, why not? Curiosity can sometimes be satisfied a bit. Sometimes it's nice just being left as part of the mystery. But my plea in this modern world is that tantrikas, if they start hounding around your marriage and you're serious about old school marriage, and You want safety and comfort, yeah, chase them away. Like martial artists start coming around your flower arranging circle and start getting all intent about that. And yeah, it's not weird for martial artists to do flower arranging. It is a practice of the samurai. But if they sort of bring their martial arts vibe in too much, you might want them to leave your school and get out. But in terms of the culture, it's okay for them to exist. And I would suggest, disturbing as we are, it's okay for us Tantra people to exist and get on doing our crazy stuff. And if it's not okay with you, and it really is these days, generally, I happen to know, so we're cool. Like martial arts is cool. But like capoeira, if you suppress us, if you lean on us, if you push us, we're still findable. People know the kind of front doors that we are behind. And of course there might be lots of people doing that kind of stuff who don't have anything behind. But such is the dance of discernment, and that's part of the walk of a tantrika, like part of the walk of a martial artist, is finding their people, finding their teachers, finding the schools for them, and so on. So, yeah, just, if you're tolerant with us, we're around, and we're visible, a bit. And if you're intolerant with us, we're a bit invisible, we're hard to find, and you probably have to dig through quite a lot of nonsense around to get to us. But that's not different from when we're available too, because then there's 10,000 idiots all shouting, I do this, I do this, I do this, and one has to pick through them first to find out, what's authentic, what's real. Anyway, I don't know if that little bit of a rambling rap about a very basic little point. You can tolerate martial arts, they do illegal things. You can tolerate tantrikas, they do illegal things. We both keep it sort of out of the general culture thing as much as we can and try and torture each other only and stuff.